Oh, this is going to be fun. We're going to take a walk down memory lane. And the keeper of New Haven's treasures, Robert S. Greenberg. Thank you so much for being here, Robert.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, let's go back in your family. When did you first come here? Your family members come to New Haven and start to love it?
Well, my grandfather, Joe, came here in 1911 with his brother and started the business in 1912 in New Haven. And my other grandfather was born here in New Haven, so they were two inspirations.
And was that Acme, the business they started?
My grandfather, Joe, started Acme Moving and Storage in 1912, around that period. Yep.
All right. Let's look at some pictures about your family so we can lay the groundwork about why you were the keeper of the treasures.
Okay.
This is a ship. Tell
Yes.
me about this ship.
That's the Carmania. I looked up some papers going back to Ellis Island about my grandfather Joe, and this is the ship that he came over on from Liverpool, England.
And that got the things rolling for New Haven.
That's right.
All right, tell me about this.
Now that is a little toy truck that my grandfather Simon Evans painted when I was a little boy. That's probably my very first artifact, and that was in my room ever since I was a little boy. My grandfather Joe painted that, my grandfather Simon painted that for my grandfather Joe's business. So.
And you know, when I think of Acme, I think of Roadrunner and Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Why did they name the company this?
Well, that's a good story, because back then you used the phone book. And so the higher up you were in the phone book, the more apt people were to find your business.
AC.
AC, that's right. And
I love that.
That's right. So my grandfather Joe did AC, ME, and that's how it started.
Very smart. This is a building still in New Haven. Tell me about this building.
Actually, that building is not still in New
Oh,
Haven.
sorry. I have my old buildings mixed up.
That's right. No, that's an urban renewal destructed building. That one there was on the corner of what used to be Worcester and State, and then it came into Crown. That building was on the very corner, which is across from Cafe 9 now, where the trees are.
Sure, and Acme was on the side of the building.
That's right. He was known for putting a broadside on his building of different advertisements about his business.
Which is smart.
Now that building is still here. That where the round circle is, that signage is where the Acme Furniture Company is today, and the building next to that is gone. That's the parking lot. And Firehouse 12 is in the beginning. Now
this is more Acme. Is this an ad?
That is an ad in the directory, and it's in the 1930s, and it dictates what he did in the business. When we still had paper. That's right.
And this was an order?
That was his letterhead, and I love that letterhead because he put his little truck there, and I would have loved to have seen that truck in person, but that was a 1930s letterhead from Acme Moving and Storage.
You had two grandfathers here.
That's right.
Tell me about the two of them. Were they in business together?
No,
Did they know each other?
No, my grandfather Joe was older. My grandfather Joe came over again in 1911. My grandfather Simon was born in 1917. But my grandfather Simon was my inspiration for collecting. My grandfather Joe died when I was 5, and I carry on his name, but Simon was the one who would take me to flea markets and to antique stores all over Connecticut.
Which is why you have thousands of artifacts, which we're going to get to in just a minute. We have a few more pictures. Is this Joe?
That's Joe. That's Joe in World War I in the Navy, and he was a very proud patriot in America.
Did they love New Haven right away?
I believe they loved New Haven. I think it was the land of opportunity. Coming from Russia, Joe came from Russia. Yeah.
Now this gives us an inside look at all the things you have collected and want to build a museum in the city of New Haven desperately.
Yes.
So you're looking for a place.
Yes.
You have a GoFundMe site up. Tell me about that.
I was reluctant to ask for the public's help. But I got to the point where I'm desperate now to get out of the building, and I need the money to move the objects. It's a very delicate operation. You have to have climate control, and you have to have proper packing, and you have to have security and lighting and locks and cameras and everything to secure this collection until I find a set place to put it in.
For the years I've known you, you were just passionate about New Haven, and you'll go to a digging site and you'll find stuff, and you've got pottery that goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. So you're the guy to find stuff. A few more photos before we get to the artifacts.
Sure.
Now this is one of your grandparents.
That's Simon Evans, and this is a great little event he did. It was called Israel in the Park, and that's across from where Yale Bowl is, where the Pilot Penn Stadium, where the tennis stadium is now. And he would do that as a presentation, he would just present these objects to kind of show what was in New Haven. And that's really where I got it from. He talked about Oak Street, and he talked about all the areas of town that were destroyed by urban renewal. And they were really upset about that. Most of the people that were friends with him, they lost a lot of businesses, they lost a lot of properties, and all these beautiful institutions that they had, that they used to go to, and they were gone. So he set up these exhibits just to kind of show people what was here, and he would paint on the trucks the different names of the companies, and he would have it for display only. And of course, kids would come and want to buy it or pick it up, and he wouldn't let anybody touch them.
And now you're the guy who's the keeper of the history.
I inherited it from him. Yeah.
A few more photos.
Yeah.
This is you, a younger
That's
Robert.
Right.
Yes, and
That's
your grandfather.
me in high school. Right.
The next photo.
Yeah.
Now, this is a newspaper. Tell me this story.
Now, that's a fun story. I had a great Uncle Harry on my grandfather's Joe's side, and he claimed that he was there as a paper boy on the New Haven Green when the Titanic sank. And he had a disc in his pocket, which was a worn-down Morgan dollar that he had kept in his pocket his entire life. And he said that a man came and gave him a silver dollar for a 2-cent paper, and he never spent the silver dollar. So when I started collecting the memorabilia about New Haven, I found this Titanic paper, which is very rare, but it said it was 2 cents. And so I found pictures of the paper boys, and this was a verification.
Tell me about this.
So what I did for Acme's 100th anniversary in New Haven was I did 2 show windows. One, I took my artifacts, and of course we have furniture that goes back centuries at Acme. I took furniture and my artifacts and married them to each window. So that's a 1912 window. All the artifacts are period, the phones, the cameras, the...
Great for movie shoots,
yeah, I absolutely could do movie sets, yep.
Well, that's another business. Here's more of the things that you have collected that you need to find a home for.
Yes, yes. That's one of the walls in my room. That's some money from New Haven. New Haven had a lot of currency over the periods of time.
All right, let's get to the table before us.
Okay.
And go through these artifacts. Not everybody knows that silly putty was made here. Tell me about this.
Silly putty was invented in New Haven, and it's a product that they didn't know what to do with. It was made for something else, and it just didn't work. And
well, we used to put it on cartoons and rub it off from the newspaper, right?
Right. So it made the man $1 million. And it's a pretty famous toy from the 1960s. New Haven.
Here we have some tiny little shoes.
Right.
And you said these are just exhibits of a shoe company.
That's right, Candy Rubber Shoe Company, and they took the Goodyear formula and they started to use it in an application which was rubber shoes. And so in the 1800s, rubber shoes were, really needed. I mean, you had leather before that. And so this is a salesman sample. These are really, really nice because they have the box and everything. But what I really love about the Candy Company is that they did these wonderful, whimsical ads, and I have hundreds of them, and they're really fun. And
these date back to turn of the century?
1880s.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Yeah,
right.
1880s.
Okay, Elvis came to call in New Haven, and you have memorabilia from that.
I do.
You've got a ticket. This is from the 70s.
That's right. That's an original ticket to Elvis in the 1970s and 1975. This is a photograph. I bought a photograph of Elvis in the Coliseum.
And he did a live concert there.
Oh yeah, I think he did a couple concerts there because this is Elvis in '76. This is the music. This is a live recording. And I have a friend of mine who's a retired police officer who actually shook Elvis's hand. My friend Fred Hurley was out back, and Elvis came outside and he shook Elvis's hand. And he always tells that story.
He can tell that story forever.
Yeah, so.
Now, we've got some Sally's and Pepe's match covers.
That's right. This is, and here's Frank Pepe on the cover. And here's some Sally's matches.
And that goes back to the 40s or so?
Right. These are from the 40s. What I love about this is everybody had matches. I mean, back then you could smoke everywhere, obviously, and so every company, didn't matter what it was, had matches. So it's really fun to find the original matches to each business.
Oh, absolutely.
I have thousands of them.
2 cans of soda.
Well, actually, this one isn't soda. This is the famous Hull's beer, and this one goes back to the 1930s. This is a very rare can, and Hull's had fabulous, fabulous beer, and it was an aquifer that came up underneath Congress Avenue, and they pumped this water right up from under Congress. The river is still there. But I believe there's apartments and condos above it now.
All these things you have in your head, you know, you need to write it all down.
I know.
All right, here's the soda company.
Cott Soda, a fabulous soda. I think the closest you're going to get today is obviously Fox and Park.
Sure.
Is the equal to what Cott would be. But I'm sure that people that had Cott Soda back then would say this was the best soda they ever had.
All right, this cigars.
Right.
So tell me about this.
Well, we were a big cigar industry here in New Haven. Of course, Connecticut tobacco was big. And what I love about the F.D. Graves Company and this box in particular is that building still exists, and that's pretty rare.
And where is this building?
This is on State, almost to George Street, and I believe now it's like a safe haven building, something of that nature. But it's the building is still there, and it's exactly what it looks like today.
It's a beautiful box.
Yeah.
All right, here's a hotel bell.
Right.
Tell me
and that's what I like about that is that is the hotel Taft bell for the front desk.
Something very romantic about
yeah,
this, you know.
It's a 1910 bell, and what I love about it is there was only one, and so that sound resonated through all of the hotel, and so I have that bell.
And you have the bell.
I do have the bell.
You also have a pencil sharpener.
I do. Very early. What I love about New Haven is that there were so many inventions here. There were so many industries that made things, and this is a very rare pencil sharpener that was donated by a gentleman who read one of my articles in the New Haven Register, and he just showed up one day and he gave me that, and it's a magnificent artifact.
We had a lot of smart folks here making a lot of things.
Absolutely.
They were also making bikes.
Bicycles.
And
yep.
Tell me about this.
That's an 1880s award for a bike race, a novice bike race that was at Hamilton Park, which is over off of Whaley Avenue. And what I love about this is that, you know, Devil's Gear today is our bike you know, business in town, and so this was part of the beginning of bikes in New Haven, and so Devil's Gear carries on today.
Speaking of wheels, we have a child's Austin Martin.
That's right. This is this is made in New Haven.
And you have the box.
I have the box. The fun thing about this is this was a toy that my father bought me when I was a kid, and I had it ever since. And it's in mint condition. It still has the label.
Has the price tag.
But what I love about this is that this was a you know, from a movie, obviously, and it was made in New Haven, and A.C. Gilbert made it.
People may not know lollipops were made in New Haven.
They were invented in New Haven.
And this is a tin
by Bradley Smith.
Right. And it says Yale on it.
Well, it's the brand, the Yale brand. But Bradley Smith, what I love about that story and quick synopsis in the, you know, the first movie that came out in Technicolor was The Wizard of Oz, and the little guys hand over a lollipop to Dorothy, and I think that New Haven helped propel that whole story of the Lollipop Guild to America, and this is an original tin.
Which is so great.
Yeah.
All right, we have 2 hats.
That's right.
One of these.
I have dozens of beautiful hats. This is a 1920s straw hat from Church Street and Center Street. It was sold there. And I have a picture of my grandfather wearing a hat just like that, so that's why I brought that.
Guys were so dapper.
Yeah,
I'm going to let you lift this one up.
And this one, I mean, I think that you should model this.
Oh, this is just sharp.
This is a Schartenberg's hat, a woman's hat from Schartenberg's, and that's fabulous there.
You know, when this...
It's like, I call it the jellyfish hat, because I can imagine the women coming down the street and wearing that. So
this came from a department store that everybody loved.
Schartenberg's. And what I really, the great story about that is...
It's hard to talk to me looking like this,
I love that hat on you. What's great about that hat is that they had women's plumage hats since the 1910 all the way to the 1950s, and then the birds started running out, and so they had to, you know, stop making plumage hats. And so this is one of the last of them from Schartenberg.
That's actually just amazing. Yeah. All right, we've shown folks just a little bit. You know, you have thousands of artifacts.
Thousands.
How much does this mean to you to get this into a building in New Haven, preserved for folks?
Well, I moved out of New York City to come back here and do this. And I've been studying the museums in New York, the international community that goes to these museums, and I felt that New Haven's history was as illustrious as any other history in America. And as a matter of fact, New Haven helped build America. So this really isn't just an exhibit about New Haven. It's an exhibit about America. And I felt that if we exhibited these things properly, so that these like items would tell a story, that we would really be able to turn on the future generations to the magnificent things that happened here. And you would have a different understanding of New Haven by seeing all these beautiful products.
And we're about to be 375 years
I think
old?
We're on 378 coming up, I think, or we're on 378
suffice
now.
it to say hundreds of years old.
We are hundreds of years old.
So what we hope is that you get this museum, that the city comes together, that they want to preserve all these artifacts, and this is just, you know, a thumbnail sketch of what you have.
Right.
You have jugs and bottles, and there's
thousands
so many other firsts, thousands of things.
Thousands of things.
And your grandfather would be proud if you had this.
I think if Simon Evans saw this, he would be totally amazed. Of course, back when he was alive, there was no eBay. He just had to go to antique stores and buy things. And my feeling about it is, if I can find the proper location, like the bank on the corner of Church and Crown would be a great place, because it's a museum in itself. To exhibit these things in the right way, I think that my grandfather would have really liked to see that, and he would have been proud of me. Sure.
Well, Robert, thank you for bringing all this in. We'll hear from you again when you get the museum. In the meantime, check out the GoFundMe site, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I'm going to store it in Fairhaven, at a factory space in Fairhaven, and that's part of what the GoFundMe site is for. I need to secure that site, because in the interim of finding another location, I don't want to just put these artifacts away. I don't want them to be put in bins and not seen. And what's happening now is students are actually coming and using this collection. Yale students and public school students are using it. So I want to keep it active, and in order to do that, that's part of what the GoFundMe site is to secure it and make it accessible to the community, but mostly for students.
And if you go back to the past, many times you find your future.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Spend all night kissing, and if was right here, then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked, they found us a witch, and I found the keys to the door, but it's also a metaphor. Things keep locked in the grocery store, but mine just to save time. Skip right ahead to the nice ride. The harder we look, the less we can see. Don't you know that you need me?